Hello, and welcome to my original contribution presentation for professional education studies for American College of Education. My name is Trevor Hoffman, and I'll be walking you through motivation, the great spark of education, and hopefully you get something out of this to help you improve student participation and engagement. Now, this is primarily geared towards secondary education, so 7th through 12th grade. But with that in mind, now this presentation will be primarily divided into three sections. Firstly, why does this matter to us as educators and then to our students? Then, followed by the scholarship. What do leading experts and the latest scholarships say is effective for motivation? How to increase it? What determines its motivation? And then finally, thirdly, some strategies on how we can realistically help improve motivation in our students and give them a better learning experience and provide a better education for them. May seem like a question with an obvious answer to us, at least as educators, but why does motivation matter in education? Why should you watch this presentation? What could you possibly hope to gain out of it? Well, for educators, for us, um, this could help you increase your student engagement. Every teacher has had some instance in the career of students who say they do not care, who simply are apathetic and do not wish to do or perform or even attempt any of the tasks you're trying to have them do, grow any of the skills you're trying to help them foster. This should hopefully help alleviate some of that. We also should see greater skill mastery and content mastery from our students because of that increased engagement. And in general, it should help foster a more supportive learning environment, which is good for us all. Again, help remove some of that apathy and get more actively engaged students, which for us, being a bit selfish here, would definitely help improve your own morale and your own motivation to teach. Now, for our students, they will gain an even more engaging educational experience. They should be more drawn in to the content and the skills that you're trying to teach, which, for their point of view, will make learning and school more exciting. Again, getting rid of some of that apathy. From their point of view, they should also gain increased confidence in the classroom. They won't, hopefully, at least, won't be walking into a class where they are dreading the work because they simply don't understand it or don't feel like they can accomplish it. And by association with those first 2 points, um, this should result in some improvement in their grades and their general educational performance, which is good for everyone. So, hopefully, this presentation accomplishes that, and hopefully, you gain some helpful tips and tricks out of it and a new understanding of motivation. Now, let's look at this first section on motivational scholarship. What do the experts say helps students become motivated? What prevents them from becoming motivated? And how maybe we can help them achieve that motivation? I've divided this into three major themes in the scholarship. Firstly, intrinsic motivation, or really motivation from an internal source rather than an outside reward. Self efficacy, the student's perception of their own ability to accomplish something. And then ownership, how the student feels a connection or responsibility towards what they're learning. Each section will be explored in the following. I think it's important that we define the two major kinds of commonly recognized motivation, that being extrinsic motivation versus intrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation being motivation to gain rewards or to avoid punishments. Some easy examples of rewards that some would seek to gain would be money, good grades, a trophy or other accolades, ribbons, medals to, recognize accomplishment, or an easy one, candy. Sorry, it's Halloween when I'm recording this. Um, Punishments that many would seek to avoid would be detention, timeouts, or grounding, and if we're talking adults, jail time. But these are things to be avoided. They are not things that they would seek out. But both those rewards and punishments are part of extrinsic motivation. It's outside influences, whether they be good or bad. We contrast this with intrinsic motivation. This is motivation that comes from enjoyment of an activity in and of itself. An example of this, again, personal enjoyment. They find the activity fulfilling. They set their own personal goals or have personal goals that they wish to accomplish for themselves, or some just relish the challenge. My own intrinsic motivators, I practice my guitar, not because I want to become a rock star and gain a lot of money, but because I find the process of learning a new song or growing calluses on my fingers uh, fulfilling. I am accomplishing a new task. Or when I started to learn how to draw, I wanted to see the improvement in my own skill as time went on. These are intrinsic motivators. I'm not seeking to gain money or praise for what I do. I just enjoy doing it because I can improve. It's fulfilling to me. But with those two definitions, now let's go in education. Why is intrinsic motivation so much more important or better than extrinsic motivation? In general, our goal is to help our students reach higher and higher levels of Bloom's taxonomy, those top three layers being analysis, evaluation, and creation. Creation, especially, is going to be very important in relation to intrinsic motivation. These skills require, out of the ones listed in Bloom's, these skills require the most effort, at least to accomplish well. Um, Students who are intrinsically motivated, they are going to put forward more effort than those extrinsically motivated. In fact, uh, studies have shown that uh, extrinsic motivation for matters of especially creation and the other higher order skills, it's largely ineffective. We need students who are intrinsically motivated. That's not to say extrinsic motivation is, without place in education. Uh, Students love receiving little prizes like stickers or keychains or uh, other little acknowledgments of their accomplishments in a physical form. But those will largely not be enough when we get to those higher skills. So it's important we recognize intrinsic motivation's importance. And then later on in the presentation, I'll discuss methods by which we could help increase that intrinsic motivation to tackle schoolwork and take
Moving
on new
on to our
challenges. Second theme in the scholarship on motivation, self-efficacy, or a student's perception of their own ability to accomplish a task. Research has shown a positive correlation between student scores on writing assignments, particularly creative writing assignments, and their own reported self efficacy. Well, what does that mean? Essentially, the more confident a student felt in their ability to accomplish a task, the higher their score on that task tended to be. Conversely, the less confident a student feels about their ability to accomplish this task, the lower their score tended to be. Essentially, perception becomes reality for these students. Even though we as educators might see that they have the ability, they have the means, they have everything they need to accomplish this task in front of them. If they don't feel that way, if they don't feel confident enough, then it all falls apart. They might crash and burn. Even though we know they can, they don't know that. This has a lot of real impact on our students if they have positive or negative self-efficacy. Students with lower self-efficacy, they're less likely to take risks. If they're introduced to new concepts in math or ELA and they have a lower self-efficacy, they're less likely to give it a try. They're less likely to put effort in because they already feel like they can't do it. Conversely, those with higher self-efficacy might see this and already pick up on new concepts because they feel like they can. It's a real placebo effect. It's a mental placebo effect. Some perform poorly simply because they think they will. Again, perception is becoming reality for our students. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, whether positively or negatively for many of them. Of course, there are plenty of students who come in very, very confident in their abilities and end up falling flat on their face. This is not to say those students don't exist, but in general trends, the more confident we can make our students in their own abilities, the better they will do, or at the very least, the more likely or willing they will be to take risks on new content, new skills, new concepts, and just new challenges in general in the classroom. Their self efficacy matters. Even if it's not a physical thing we can give them, it's not a tool at their disposal, it matters almost just as much, if not more so. Because if they don't realize they can use the tools, if they think they're incompetent or incapable, oftentimes that becomes the case. Our third theme in the scholarship of motivation I call ownership. Essentially, how much our students feel like their education connects to them, has meaning to them, and is something important. Research has shown that students are less motivated if they feel the subject and the skills that they are being taught do not relate to them. We've, I'm sure, heard students say things like, when will I ever use the Pythagorean theorem in real life? When will I ever use the quadratic formula? When will I ever need to know about Rochambeau and the American Revolution? If they don't feel like it matters, they will disengage. They will see things as busy work, something to just write down and turn in because, well, the adults told me to. If they don't see a reason to be engaged in their own education, if they don't see a need, they don't see a point, they don't see the importance, they will simply disengage. Us knowing it's important for them is one thing. We know it is important. We know that they gain valuable skills and uh, knowledge to help them in the world. But if they don't know that, well, what reason do they have to put forward the effort? They'll simply disengage. Conversely, if they do recognize its importance or they see how it relates to their own lives, their own interests, and just them as people, well, maybe they'll seek to challenge themselves. They'll seek to improve. They'll seek to learn more because they see its worth, because they feel how it connects to them. We'll discuss some methods on how to improve that feeling of ownership and relatability in some of the following slides. Understanding this scholarship is great. Understanding why things work or don't work is very helpful for us as educators to maintain context and to keep in mind as we're designing lessons. But how can we actually practically help? How can we help improve not only our own educational prowess, how can we improve the educational conditions of our students? How can we improve their learning and their lives? I'm going to divide this section of strategies into two parts. First, just seeing some general tips and research from the scholarship. Then I'm going to try to get into some more real world examples for each section of this. Now, the scholarship on strategies to help improve our students' motivation, to help increase their self efficacy, and to help them gain that feeling of ownership over their own education, more or less breaks down into four themes that I've noticed. The first is meaning and relatability. Make things, as much as you can, make things personal, make things related to their interests, and make things applicable to the real world or bring in real world examples. One of the examples I can think of from my own educational career is we had noticed these two students who were not, you could say that they weren't, school oriented. They were very much more in favor of riding dirt bikes and going out in the mud and the rain and getting messy and having a good time. They were very, very much into their dirt bikes to the point where they were trying to customize them, to swap out parts and try to understand them and, figure out how they work. And with them not being exactly inclined to seeking out math and math education, we found a way to relate it back to their dirt bikes, to go into, PSI and the cylinders. And I'll be honest, I'm not a car person or a dirt bike person. I probably don't know all what I'm talking about when it comes to that subject, but relating it back to them and what they found interesting, they started to take more of an interest, and their scores started to go up as we gave them, word problems and other things related to their dirt bikes. Because now they saw use, now they saw meaning, now it related to them. The other category that we talk about is autonomy, essentially giving students choice where possible and giving them the space to develop their skills. This could be anything from here's three writing prompts, choose one of the three to write about, all the way to, uh, again, drawing from my own experience, we had to create a project for the Civil War for our students, and they were able to choose essentially any topic related to the Civil War, meaning they could research important people, they could research important medical advancements made in that era of the Civil War. I had two students in particular that really went in a very niche direction, but they did very, very well because it related to their interests, and we had the choice to give that to them. Uh, One was very much into fashion. I always caught her drawing fashion designs in her notebook rather than taking notes. So I thought it'd be very interesting to let her know about different fashions of the Civil War, what they meant, what things were made out of, as well as the fact that spies during the time would often sew secret messages and other intelligence into the lining of their own clothing. And she got really interested in that and started doing some research into the fashions. She drew up some designs, and she wrote a wonderful report on fashion. A bit more niche is the second student that I was talking about. She was very into tattoos. This is middle school, but she very much wanted to get her own tattoo when she got older. She was constantly drawing on her arm and making new designs and, all that stuff. So I offered her the choice, do you want to do your research project on different tattoos and their meanings in that time period related to Civil War soldiers? And she did. She even taught me some things. For instance, some soldiers were fearful of not being able to be identified in the event of their death, and wanted particular tattoos on certain parts of their body so that their families could um, know that they had died, and they wouldn't have to be anxious and worry about their son being lost or, injured. They would know that they had peace. Regardless, those two students were able to do very, very well because they were given that choice. They had that autonomy. Thirdly, relationship. And that is mostly to do with the relationship with the instructor. Studies have shown that many students, even if it's a subject they don't like, will put forth a great deal of effort if they enjoy their relationship with their instructor. So we need to do our absolute best to make sure those relationships are strong, positive, and our students are motivated sometimes just by the fact that they like being around us. Fourthly, growth. Students need to know and be aware of the fact that they are growing. We need to instill that growth mindset into our students. That could be things like progress monitoring, having them set goals, feedback, positive feedback, as well as the giving of a path to growth. We, as educators, we fall into the trap sometimes of focusing more on the students who are failing, which is fair. They need the attention. However, giving the students the positive praise that they need will help their self-efficacy and make them feel more motivated to improve. And this is especially true of the students who don't do particularly well. They need the positive feedback often more so than the negative. here's what you did wrong. But also, for that negative feedback, how can they improve? Not just pointing out, hey, we need to improve here, but offering a path of, here's how we're going to improve here. Here's what we can do to improve here. Having all of this put together will help our students become more confident. It will give them that feeling of ownership. It will increase their motivation to take on these risks, take on these challenges, and to succeed. Now, I know I gave a few examples from my own experience, but these next few sections, we're going to look at some real world strategies and examples for different subjects. Now, what are some examples that we can use in a practical way that can help increase the meaning and relatability of our curriculum and lessons for our students? Some general examples include things like personalizing or giving choices for writing prompts. Something simple could be here are 4 or 5 different prompts. Pick one, the one you feel the most connection to, and write about that. You could open it even further and ask the students to write just according to a theme, and it could be anything. Let's say the theme is fall. One student can write about Halloween. One student could write about the leaves changing color. Another student could write about something that happened to them during the fall, whether that was positive or negative. Another could just talk about the general feelings that they have for the season. All of these things give them that choice and make things more meaningful to them because it's something that they already care about. Shifting things over to reading rather than writing, giving things that relate to them, relatable readings for something like ELA, if they're, or even social studies, if they're reading something about another person from their person's point of view, a protagonist that is relatable to them, whether that's in their age, in their ethnicity, religion, their socioeconomic status, their situation, whatever it happens to be. If you find a protagonist that relates or is relatable to those students, they would be more inclined to read about that protagonist. Um, I often give my middle school students a reading during our unit on the American Revolution for Joseph Plum Martin, who is a soldier during the Revolution, who was just a couple of years older than they are. So they find it really interesting to learn about essentially a child soldier in our American Revolution, the things he experienced, because they are essentially seeing it through his own eyes. They have not similar experiences, but they know what it's like to be that age. And they put themselves directly in his shoes. They don't have to shift around too much. Additionally, situations and other topics that I find interesting. If a physics or a science teacher wanted to give the students a reading related to pressure and all of that, the boys I talked about earlier could be very interested if it related to motocross in some way or dirt bikes. Um, Additionally, current events and trends is another simple way to increase student engagement with meaning and relatability. Um, Politics, obviously, for social studies, is something that could very easily be brought in. Um, for ELA and maybe even things like math and science, bring in memes, even if we don't understand them as the older generation. They find them incredibly relatable. At the very least, they'll find them funny. And bringing that in with those trends could be a way to increase their feelings of relatability. So I've thought about and included some examples for each of the 4 core subjects for some tips and strategies. Uh, for ELA, let's say students could write about what gives them the greatest source of entertainment, whether that's reading or TV, video games, hanging out with their friends, their phone, TikTok, playing a sport. What gives them the greatest sense of that? It's personal. It's what they feel is greatest. It gives them choice, and it directly relates to what they are interested in. For social studies, making it relatable to them, students can study the local history of the area that they live in. They could even start walking around their own neighborhood with a different set of eyes if they look things up on the internet or go to the library or just talk to some older folks in the neighborhood. Studying and learning that local history relates to them. It's the streets that they walk on, it's the houses that they live in. For mathematics, Students could plan a dream vacation and calculate the expenses of actually having to go on that. And maybe some will start to think about saving up some money for that dream vacation. For science, let's say students study the eating habits of someone their own age and then research the side effects of that kind of diet or that kind of set of eating habits. Again, it relates to them, and maybe they'll think more about their health, or maybe they'll think maybe they don't have it so bad with their health. Either way, these are some examples I was able to come up with for meaning and religion. When it comes to autonomy, scholarship tells us to provide choices and opportunities for growth whenever possible for our students. Um, for the 4 core subjects, I've thought of some examples. For ELA, they can choose between multiple different readings or writing prompts. Giving them the choice to tackle what they want to tackle gives that feeling of autonomy, and it makes them more willing to give things a shot. Whether that's simply choose a fairy tale or here's a different, here are the 3 prompts to write for. Pick the one that you feel has the most meaning to you. There you go. Um, Social studies. For an open ended research project, a student chooses to study fashion during the Civil War. Sorry if I'm repeating myself on that one, but again, the student felt very much into fashion, drew up great designs, learned a lot about Civil War fashion and how it related to the Civil War. Regardless, it gives them the choice. It makes them feel like they have some ownership, and it gives them the autonomy to practice their skills and explore their own interests. Math, this was a colleague of mine came up with this assignment. Provide a menu of problems to solve, each with a price and a minimum amount of money to spend. Basically, the students were given a list of appetizers, entrees, and a dessert. They were told they need to buy a certain amount of products. They needed at least 2 appetizers, 1 entree, and 1 dessert. The harder problems did cost more money, and it did get them up to the minimum price point they needed to spend. There wasn't a limit. They needed to spend a certain amount. So they had to choose, okay, if I do these 2 little problems, but then I need a bigger problem later on. Regardless, it gave them the choice to tackle problems that were harder or to maybe play things safe. For science, allowing students to choose a scientist of their own choice and create a presentation for them. I actually did this one for my physics class in high school. I chose Nikola Tesla. Other students chose people like Einstein or Franklin or what have you. But we all had the choice of a scientist. And that gave me the autonomy to explore my own interests. Again, it's all about giving them that feeling of ownership and letting them express their own rights and views. For relationships, I do not try to give examples specific to the 4 core subjects. These are things that are universal across every classroom, no matter the grade or age range, subject does not matter. Developing the bond between teacher and student is essential. Students are inclined, research shows, to work even for subjects that they dislike for teachers that they do like. Essentially, we want to get our students to like us, or at the very least, respect us, because then they're more inclined to do their work. Well, okay, how do we accomplish that? This may seem like a very baseline thing to do, but it really matters. And it's never a bad idea to emphasize the basics, the foundation of so much of what we do. They often go overlooked, but they are steadfastly important. So, firstly, learn their names, greet them, show them basic respect and courtesy. I know for many secondary education professionals, there are a lot of kids' names to memorize. I know this year in my school alone, I have around 160 new students to memorize. And I'll be honest, I don't think I have all of their names down. I'm getting there, but not quite. But students will feel respected, they will feel seen if you can call them by their name. If you know who they are, if you greet them intentionally, if you go out of your way to make them feel seen, that is step 1. Now, as the relationships keep going, find time and find ways to ask students about their lives, their hobbies, their activities. I learned a lot about my students who were into dirt bikes. I've forgotten a lot of what they told me about dirt bikes, but I listened. And listening makes them feel, again, even more seen and respected by us as teachers. I have several students who, at the beginning of my classes, I take 5 or 10 minutes to just let students talk about things they have going on in their lives. Hey, what are your plans for the weekend? What are your Halloween plans tonight? Did you catch up on that show you were talking about? Oh, I heard you went camping. Oh, I heard your older sister got first place in the cheer competition. Whatever it happens to be, and keeping up with what they have going on makes them, again, feel seen, and it makes them feel like you care. And if we want to relate things back to our students, learning what their lives are like, what interests them, that's a big tool in our arsenal. So it's a little selfish learning about it just to make assignments for them, but it all goes hand in hand. This one is, we have to be careful with it, but it is important. Sharing appropriate aspects of our lives with students. They want to know about us just as much as we should want to know about them. Now, some in this age of social media will go out of their way to try to search us up and find our accounts and get pictures and what have you. That's its own thing. But sharing aspects of our lives. Hey, what's your favorite show? Hey, what kind of comics or manga or things do you like? Do you play any video games? Oh, they played that too. Oh, that's interesting. Can we play together? No, we can't. But knowing you have similar experiences with them, or them knowing you have similar experiences with them, goes a long way to showing that you care and that their interests are your interests, or there's similar overlap. Different musical groups that you guys like, play some music. Uh, have that share. If you share that, oh, I'm working on playing my guitar. I want to try to get better. Oh, I'm trying to get better at basketball. Hey, let's make goals together. You find ways to relate. It feels a lot better for them. Also, in that relationship, give encouragement, especially when they fail. A lot of us fall into the trap, and it has to do with the volume of students we have, I know, but we fall into this trap of only seeking out the students who are failing or doing poorly. And they need the attention, don't get me wrong. But we also need to encourage our students when they fail or when they do poorly, especially when they do well. They should feel like their accomplishments are seen. That feeling of accomplishment weighs so much more than just another, oh, good job, you did it. Letting them know that we see and recognize their accomplishments, giving that meaningful feedback, giving them what they need to hear. All of this goes a long way into developing that relationship, making them feel more inclined to be a part of our class, having that inclusive environment, and increase that motivation to do well because of us. Finally, a lot we can do. Growth. Students need to know that they are progressing. I think students can often fall into this mindset of sort of treading water, right? Where they get assignments and they are just trying to get that one done. Oh, we have a project coming up. Let me work on that, get that done, get that turned in. There's a test coming up. Let me get ready and study for that. And just sort of get done what's in front of them. And because their nose is so to the grindstone, they don't recognize all the work they've done. They don't recognize how they've improved over the course of the few days, the weeks, the months, the years that they've been at school. Of course, they know there's, better off than they were in seventh grade than in fifth grade, perhaps. But it's not something they're usually reminded of. It's not something they keep in their mind that, hey, I'm getting better. They're just, again, nose to the grindstone, trying to get things done. So here's some strategies for helping students recognize their growth and to help show them that they are still improving and that they will continue to improve. One that is fairly simple in concept, but could be difficult in execution depending on the number of students you see. Regular monthly meetings with students to discuss their strengths and needs. Again, I teach 160 kids this year. That's a big number, and it could take a lot of time and effort to do so. But it is, I think monthly at least, somewhat feasible. And even if it's something you have to spread out even further than that, meeting with students one-on-one, discussing not only where they need to improve, but where they succeed and where they have improved, and pointing out that improvement to them. That can be a great motivator for them to keep improving because they know they can now. They know it's possible. And if it's possible, they can do it. Again, this goes back to the self-efficacy. If they know and can recognize that they are growing, they might be more willing to give new things a shot and to tackle these harder assignments. Another example with long and short-term goal setting, students setting a weekly math score goal, and maybe they try to reach an end of the year math score goal. Let's say they take weekly sort of challenge quizzes, either online or with a teacher or what have you. And they have a goal with each new concept that they do. Okay, let's see if we can do this, get done, I don't know, 5 problems correctly in the next 10 minutes, something like that. And if they do, great. Put it on the chart and see if they can get higher and higher and higher each time, and see if they can get done 10 in 10 minutes or 12 or 13 or 14. Give them the goal, give them something to strive towards, give them a target to aim at. Then it won't feel so aimless. Then it won't feel like they're just doing work. It'll feel like they are striving to improve themselves. Lastly, the last one I want to talk about is a timeline for students to keep track of their accomplishments. Talking to them about their improvements is one thing, but many students having that visual of things that they've accomplished, places where they have improved, can be a massive confidence booster for them. Whether that's simply a line listing in September, we mastered least common denominators. In October, we mastered long division. In November, we're going to master 3-digit multiplication. Whatever it happens to be, having that list of acknowledgement of their accomplishments, trophies essentially of their education, that again can give them that confidence and to let them know I'm growing, I'm accomplishing things. There's much ahead of me, but everything behind me I have conquered. Even if it took me a while, even if I stumbled along the way, I did eventually do it. And helping them to maintain that mindset is beyond helpful in making sure they maintain. That brings us to the end of our presentation on motivation in education. I hope you got something out of this, whether that's renewed or deepened understanding of motivation, how it works, what doesn't, or you have some new strategies and tips and tricks you can bring into your own classroom to increase your students' motivation and help their self-efficacy. I hope you got something out of this. But just to recap some of the main points that we talked about in our presentation today. Student motivation is directly tied to their self-efficacy, how well we can make their learning meaningful and their own feelings of ownership to their learning. Intrinsic motivation is essential for higher order thinking skills, especially creativity. We can give them as many stickers and pieces of candy and goodies that they want, but unless they are intrinsically motivated, especially for that creative order thinking skill, and extrinsic motivators are largely ineffective. They will need to be intrinsically motivated. Relationship building, both academic and interpersonal, boosts the student's motivation. We need to recognize who they are as people and who they are as students. Their skills, their strengths, their growths, their hobbies, their interests, what makes them them. Recognizing both is a tremendous boost to their motivation. Choices in learning can lead to feelings of responsibility, whether that is letting students choose what math problems to work on from a menu, whether that is letting students research tattoos and fashion during the Civil War, whether that is letting them choose what scientists to research. Regardless, that choice gives them that autonomy. It makes learning more personal to them, their interests, and boosts their willingness to accomplish it. And finally, recognizing growth improves a student's motivation to continue growing. The past isn't everything. But every so often, have them look back, see what they have conquered, see what they have been through, see where maybe they've stumbled, but they've improved. Then have them look ahead again and know that they can continue to conquer. They will continue growing, and they know that because they've done it before. Once again, my name is Trevor Hoffman. I hope you gained something useful out of this presentation. Um, have a great rest of your day or night, whenever you happen to be watching this. Have a great one.